wow, it sounds like I've got a bad case of like geography issues or something, you know. So I'm really happy to be here, and this is my excuse to go to my first state fair ever. So I'm one of those people who hadn't put my hand up, but I'm going tomorrow. That's the way I'm going to spend my weekend, is the Iowa State Fair, seeing a butter cow and all those things that are really important to the Midwest. Yeah, and the pork chop on a stick, and there's a blog post where everybody's telling me like all the foods on a stick that you have to have and stuff. Shannon was incredibly helpful on that. She gave me a very long list. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about agriculture and how agriculture is seen in social media overall. So I know in this room we keep saying, you know, we're talking to our choir. But you know what? On Twitter, I'm JP Loves Cotton, right? So if I'm talking to the choir, I'm guessing that a lot of y'all don't know the same song that I'm trying to sing some of the time, right? Because I love talking about cotton. I mean, you know, whether it's blue jeans or whether it's in a cotton field and whether we're talking about going out and picking it or whatever. You know, I've worked in the cotton business for a couple of decades now. I'm really quite old, I guess. But for me, that is an incredible power on social media. I've been able to talk to a lot of people who never thought anything more about cotton. Now, in Iowa, I would be willing to bet that if I was talking to the same kind of group and I said the word bacon or pork chop on a stick, I'd get a lot of props, right? But one of the great things about social media is you can really be in a small niche, something like cotton. And you can talk about that niche on a regular basis. So whether it's that I'm trying to explain to somebody why a farmer has signs on the side of his crop and what those signs mean, or whether it's that I'm trying to talk about what a cotton farmer is doing to kind of plan out their harvest, things like that. A lot of times I find people in the choir are thinking, wow, this is a different hymnal than I've ever seen. That she must be from some interesting religion or something, because it is very different. But I think when I step back from that and I come out of, oh, I'm in a niche of cotton, I really realize that agriculture as a whole is a niche. I mean, so much of what I'm exposed to on a daily basis, my family or my friends that I grew up with, I'm a city girl, like our girl from Squaw Creek. And so, you know, I grew up thinking that my family, we were really doing the right thing. We grew our own tomatoes like good Southern people always do, right? It was even in still magnolias, you know, like you don't know why you're doing it, but you're a woman and you're Southern, so you grow the tomatoes. You may not eat them, but you grow them. But I think, you know, so many people no longer grow their own tomatoes or something. I mean, raised bed gardening is coming back in a great way. But there's a lot of experience that we have from being in agriculture that really helps apply to some of those other areas. And what I found really works well for me is when I'm not just singing the praises of cotton, which I do love, enough to draw pretty pictures on my name tag, because Deb said I could. And there's a cotton boll there if you can't see it. But I think when you get down to it and you're able to support the niche of agriculture, it really shifts the conversation. So when I was introduced, she mentioned I was with Monsanto. I actually do some work on our social media, and I also do a lot of work in terms of networking with other folks in the business. Yesterday and the day before, I was in Menango, North Dakota, with Val Wagner, Wag Farms, if any of you guys are on Twitter. But you know, earlier this year, we had a new sweet corn product, and I was really excited about it. And I found out I could give some seed to some bloggers, so I got in touch with a few people. And Val was one of the first people who said, wow, that would be awesome. You'll give me a whole bag of sweet corn seed free? It was awesome. But you know what? Val turned it around and figured out how to go from her getting something free to really making a difference in her community. So on Wednesday, I was out there with 30 or 40 people in Menango, North Dakota, which is close to Ellendale, which is sort of in the middle of nowhere, if you ask me. I'd never been to North Dakota, so I didn't know where it was. But you know what? It really turned into a major community event. There were people from church there. There were people from the schools there. And we were all picking sweet corn. I learned a lot more about how to tell which ones are good ones and which ones should stay on the plant a little while longer. And then we got to make a donation to the Great Plains Food Bank. And I mean, you want to talk about really feeling the power of doing the right thing. You're there with a farmer who spent months growing a crop, and they're focused on feeding other people in their state. She talked to me about how incredibly awesome sweet corn season is, right? I mean, we all love fresh sweet corn, and we get really spoiled. If you're either on a farm or you have friends who are farmers, we all get really spoiled about how great that sweet corn is when it just comes in. You know, we eat it, it's maybe off of the plant for a few hours. Otherwise, we start getting really spoiled, and we don't want the stuff that's been in the store all day or something, right? But I think when you look at that, Val was doing that as a beef producer. She's doing that as a soybean farmer, right? She's not just a sweet corn person. And what's really cool is that when she was doing that, she never had to say a bad thing about farmers picking other ways to grow their crops. So what I really find amazing is that while I work for Monsanto, my brother has an organic CSA, an organic co-op actually. And there is no reason for us to be at odds with each other. Now some people may try and make it where one niche within agriculture has to have something bad against another niche. You know, they're just different choices. And it's kind of like choosing a career path or something. You know, when I grew up, I had every option out there available to me. I could have chosen to be a farmer. Instead, I chose to go into communications. But that was just my choice. It didn't mean somebody else's choice was a bad one. So my brother's doing his thing, and he's got this great co-op and great neighbors that are all in it with him. And if he wants to take a vacation, somebody else is feeding the chickens that are, you know, just outside his house. For me, I'm looking more at farmers that are dealing with drought. This year, I've had a whole lot of farmers I could talk to about dealing with drought. I think, though, when we get out and we talk to people more publicly, what really is powerful is we all share this foundation in agriculture. We all know about plants growing in a way that most Americans don't have any familiarity with anymore. You know, how many people think they really have a great green thumb? I mean, if you talk to most folks, if you just went to the mall or something and asked, do you have a green thumb? Most people will look at you like they think you're nuts. And a lot of people, though, want to try and grow fresh fruits and vegetables and things at home. We have a lot of expertise within our choir, and there's no reason we all have to follow the same little line from our hymnal. But there's an awesome amount of power when we all kind of understand that we can all sit in the same choir. And so, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're Episcopal or Methodist or, heck, maybe you don't go to church at all. You can still sit up there and you can sing your heart out. It doesn't matter what you're singing about necessarily, as long as you're singing the benefits of agriculture. Because when you look at social media, I mean, Michael mentioned that, you know, less than 1% are farmers, less than 2% of us work in agriculture in any way, shape, or form in America. It gets really hard to get through. Something like the Olympics can trend for days on end. Something like the politics that we're in right now in America, I mean, it's going to be really hard for any of us to get our tiny, tiny voices heard if we're trying to get heard over the election campaign. But I think what happens is when we band a few folks together and they don't see us infighting, I think that's where the real power comes. And that one little voice that's singing a song about doing something on their farm that's environmentally a great thing to do, I can join in on that song. I may have different ideas on what those kinds of practices are, but I can still join in the song and I can sing the benefits of farmers all caring for the environment so deeply. And we can differ on some of the individual notes within the song, but we're still going to be singing for ag really strong. So, and that gets it. I'm Janice. JP loves cotton. Thank you.